So this week we will be playing 6 max cash games at Snap Poker. I have nothing prepared, or I hadn't recorded a session because I had very little time to do anything this week, and I think there were no tapes. We have not reviewed either in Finnish or English, so therefore I will be playing live. And okay, yeah, it does. So if you have any questions about these games, or just about anything, feel free to ask. Otherwise, let's just go into the hands, and yeah, not much has been happening so far. We have just been folding most of the hands and few openings. I mute my microphone a bit further. This min tree, but I was planning to call this min raise, and I would also call a 3x, so I'm just going to call this as well. I'm not going to, in limp, but I'm not gonna bet hand quite this bad. Arnimet asks whether the snap games are better than the regular tables. I have very little data about the regular tables, but I would assume they are about the same. I don't know for sure, and you can pretty easily just check the, I think there are some, the average pot size and the players per flop can be seen from the lobby. I'm thinking about value betting here in table number 1. He bet the pot on the flop, so usually he has something, which if he has something, it's usually better than our hand, or if he has nothing, then he is usually not calling even a $1 bet. So I'm just going to check. Yeah, he had ace king, and usually those are not going to call. King queen is the type of hand that I can include against a assumed better player into my calling range from these positions. I'm not going to 3-bet. If I knew he was a recreational player, then I would have 3-betted it. If any of you have any more data about these games and you know better answer to Arni Metsä's question than I do, feel free to post something, but I actually think they are pretty much the same. Obviously, if you are very good with heart or like heads up display, and then you probably should be playing the regular tables. But if not, I think it's the differences are pretty small. You also get some advantage from the fact that other players can't use HUD themselves. I flatted ace jack from these positions, and against half pot bet I think I'm going to call twice, or the second time. And on this river I think I could not have folded. There are just too small amount of ace king and ace queen combos left. Let's see, he actually had jacks and he two barreled them, so that's pretty wild. Not the greatest idea. Here I just flat called the flop. I think my king hand is often good and I have the king of spades. Now against the second barrel, this is not a board that people bluff too often on, so I'm just going to fold. Three-way on table number 2. I'm just trying to check it down. That's rarely going to happen though. Yep, I'm just always folding. Folding these hands against open races. This is actually against the full stack. I'm just going to fold these very, very worst hands. This is a hand we often get to play. We are defending against any position, so there needs to be a 3-bet or extremely big raise pre-flop, like 5x from UTG that we get to fold this pre. There are few limps. With pocket kings we are always going to isolate, and now against isolation raise I'm actually going to 3-bet, bit larger than against a just open raise because of the dead money, and I'm going to actually 3-bet this by myself against button. We get a call and I'm going to continuation bet on table number 1. Around half pot seems to be good. His range is usually pretty strong himself as well, since he raised pre, and on table number 2 I'm just going to check my pair and gut shot and going to check call. Our hand is not quite strong enough for us to bet here, I think. Obviously we don't like clubs on the river, but he has like some queens and like pocket tens in his range. Some like and ace 9 and so on. Some better hands, but it's definitely strong enough to check call once. So yeah, checking. He's actually not repping too much. This 5 is actually looks pretty good for us. I think his value range is going to be like he would play like king queen or queen jack like this, queen 10. Pocket jacks I don't think he would bet on the river. Pocket 5s obviously, but that's just only one combination. So queen jack and king queen, there are 24 combinations of those, and we need to, so he would only have to have like 10 bluff combinations. I think, well, I actually think he could have flushes in his range also, and I'm just going to fold. It's pretty close, but because of 3 clubs I don't know, it's pretty close, but I think he has too many value bets in his range, and that river card is actually not too good of a bluff card for him. And I don't know, I don't think he assumes that he gets hand like ours to fold. We face a mean raise, not raising here, just calling and trying to get a cheap showdown. I'm not going to bet myself on the river because he is gonna have some better ace-x hands. So we are often just, and he has some bluffs as well, or could have. So we are just value tuning ourselves by betting. We are just checking and calling some bets, not the biggest ones, but some of them. Here we face the mean check raise on the flop as well. Let's check out with what this guy had. Ace-3, pretty unfortunate. I'm checking this turn back. And against the half pot bet, I'm just going to call. Okay, check raise deuces on mean check raise. That's how the money is being made at these games. So I don't know if it's I don't know if it's possible for the regular tables to be any softer. It's possible, I think. I just can't fold here. He has like very weird stack size, so it's possible that he has been losing some recently, so he might be tilted, and in the worst scenarios we have like 30%, so yep. Just refreshing to see how many of you, there's 41 richest third members online. I don't know if all of you are watching or if any of you are watching the session, but blind versus blind against the mean raise, I'm not folding any hands. And the very worst hands like this is not too far away from calling actually, but I think I win slightly more by 3-betting. And if he min raises every hand pre-flop, 3-betting every hand is not a horrible idea. It's not optimal by any means, but it's actually better than calling all the hands or folding any hands. 10s against the 3.5x. Actually pretty close against this very big sizing. I opted not to 3-bet mostly because of this it was the bigger sizing and the big blind seems to be pretty bad, so I think we win more by letting him in compared to 3-betting and forcing our opponent to play with fairly tight range. He seems to be pretty strong, so it's pretty lucky for us to turn a set, and hopefully we'll just cooler his whatever. He might have like big draws also. Yep. Pocket fours. Getting coolered. Actually, weird that he raised the pot from cutoff with fours, so maybe it's his standard sizing, don't know, but not something I would do. But if we had pocket fours and he had tens, we would have lost the same amount on 2 flush boards, so those coolers, those don't matter too much. This time the luck was on our side. Pot size 3-bet 4 ways. Well, I'm not gonna fold, but I'm not gonna raise either. This is pretty marginal to raise and like if we get it in against his range, we are probably losing money. So again, we win more by letting these guys in. And this is actually such a horrible card for us that I would have folded. Now that he checks, most of his ranges is just good hands. So we could actually bet twice and turn this hand into bluff, but I don't know if he's in mood of, well, how can he call? He could have like aces with ace of diamonds or queens with queen of diamonds, and he's not gonna fold, and then sometimes he's just going to call the river as well. So I'm just trying to get to the showdown against the half pot bet. I really think we are beat here. But he might see bet queens too often on the turn. So, and queens are better. So I think I need to call because he's gonna have like ace jack or king jack sometimes. I think his most likely hand is like queens or kings. But we need to call, I think. Yep. Against that was a half pot bet, and against a bigger bet I would have folded, like even 3/4. I think it's easy fold because him betting ace jack or king jack, it's too thin of a bet, and it's gonna happen mostly. He's gonna use the smaller sizing more often. Might be that I would have needed to fold, but it's NL10 and I didn't feel like it. Weird things happen in NL10, so I'm thinking about if I should call this. Yeah, probably. And not the best flop for us. He's gonna have like jacks plus, and even his plugger bluffs have a pretty good equity on this flop. Against 2.5x with deeper stacks, and big blind has over 200 big blinds also. So therefore I will call. And against the check, I think I'm just going to check. He's often not calling with jacks there anyways, so I'm just going to bet once, and that's going to be the river. Yep. Now we get the kings. Against the mean bets, I think I'm just going to call. We have backdoors, and if this guy folded and he keeps mean betting, we can bluff on certain cards. When we turn a draw, we are just going to draw it cheaply and so on. We have a blocker to the. We are like the worst possible hand we can have, and he doesn't seem too strong. We have blocker to the straight, and I'm trying to bluff. Yep. And against this small of a raise, I'm calling 3 ways. Pretty good turn card for us. I'm betting, expecting to get folds most often, but I think Arnimetso will know about Kuberis. I think Kuberi was supposed to have a coaching tomorrow, but I don't know if that's going to happen because it's the tomorrow is, I don't know what's tomorrow. Tomorrow is some kind of a special day here in Finland. I'm calling with King Queen and checking this down. Oops. Let's actually check what the day we have tomorrow is in English. It's May Day in some countries, and yeah, May Day in Finland. Or May Day, tomorrow is actually May Day Eve. And the May Day is the 1st of May. But who cares? Three betting ace king, pretty standard. I'm not thrilled to get 200 big blinds deep in. Against this shorty, we are just going in. He shouldn't bluff like this ever, but who knows? Yeah, aces. Ace king is just way too good to fold, even though we knew he only has value hands in this spot. Yeah, I think Arnimetso is right, and I think there's a pretty obvious reason for celebrating the eves. Okay, so this Meri Rosvo guy, who is this is Finnish nickname, he seems to be tanking. So I don't like that too much. Let's see if that keeps happening. Yeah, that was the reasoning I was thinking about. I'm trying to bluff. This is actually, well, no, this is not too good of a card for me to bluff. I don't. He shouldn't be folding an 8. He might have folded ace a4, but ace is actually not a good, too good of a card for us, because we are not c-betting ace-x hands too often, and when we do, we usually don't check the turn. Against a regular looking guy, I'm not going to 4-bet. I'm just going to call. and check fold. Sorry about that noise. I actually got to my apartment like 5 minutes before the coaching, and I have not eaten anything for like 6 hours, so I'm trying to eat something every few minutes or take a bite. 6 is actually pretty bad card for us to bet, because he actually if he often just has queen x hands or so on, so he's not going to or 9x, so he's usually not folding against when the turn pairs. On this river, I think we can value raise. He sometimes has 6s and he might even call with queen. He doesn't need to have a full house, so I wouldn't raise too thinly. I think ace 6 or king 6 is going to, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the 6s, but the nut straight is pretty sweet hand to raise them. So again, against this mini Merirosvo guy, if he check called the flop with very bad hand, then we can be pretty certain that he's not abusing our stream. If he folded like pocket tens, then that would be something. I actually recall his name from somewhere, and I don't think he's too publicly, like I don't think he's the member of Pokerimania. Oh, that's not where I remember him from. He might. With no backdoors, and pretty much with nothing, I'm just going to fold against the donk bet. And 3-betted queens, pretty standard. Checking back. I was thinking about flopping a set, but this is not quite. I thinking about flopping the straight, but this is not quite that. But it's pretty good hand for us to call the bet on the flop. And against the big bet, I'm just going to fold the turn. Yeah, I think I just need to fold this here. 4 ways. Let's see what happens. This guy keeps betting and he flopped the straight. So in limp spots, that's the straights and sets are just too likely to be seen when someone bets multi-way more than one time. I faced a mean raise on the flop and I called. Now we turn a gut shot and he bets half a pot, so I'm just going to call again and folding on the river unimproved. Now we river straight, so I would have called once more, I think, depending on his sizing, but yeah. And he had actually a better 9, so not too surprising of a outcome. King 4. I'm not going to fold. Yeah, I'm just going to call. And on the ace is better card for his range than it is for ours, so I'm just going to check it down and hopefully win sometimes. And 6 is actually pretty good card for him as well, so actually I'm surprised that I won the hand. I really shouldn't have not. I really should not have won. Yeah, he played it pretty bad. 3 options to bet when he actually with 2 overs, and the flop is pretty. Yeah, he had 2 overs and a backdoor flush draw, so I would have bet. I'm actually going to 3 bet bluff here on table number 2. And flopping 2 pair when you 3 bet bluff is actually pretty sweet. I like it better than trips. So yeah, and when we noticed that he didn't use the cards that were very good for his range, it just means that he's not the top level thinker. I'm not claiming that I am, but not even the top level thinker of these games, I assume. So I like to think about ranges a lot and individual cards like turn cards and so on, and think about whether the card is better for our range. And usually it goes in game. The decisions that you make them against a range, and so if if you could see no one's whole cards, you can always think about ranges and think about the board texture, and you kind of get to think that, or you can think who should win the hand, range versus range, and that's actually a pretty good way to, if you walk at the look at the watch. I was thinking about whether I would say watch or look, and it came out as work. If you watch the EPTs or other live streams where you don't get to see the whole cards always, you can kind of think about what they could have, and on this board who should win the hand. And that's a pretty good way to improve your game also. Also, if you are playing like regular tables, when after you fold you get to see the hands, you can also do it there, just trying to guess your opponent's hand ranges. And yeah, I'm 3-betting queens here. I could go a bit bigger because we are deeper, but it's not too big of a difference. And I think he would 4-bet king's bluffs 95% of the time. So I'm not too scared. Actually, I could see it a bit smaller, like 70-80 cents. I think we are winning by a pretty good margin, like with pretty good win rate at this point. Even though $8, I think we have profited like $7 out of it. I don't think it's not too big of a figure, but it's, you always have to compare it to like relative win rates, and blinds per 100 is usually a pretty good way to do it. Here we have double gutter, 4 ways. I actually just want to, I don't want to raise and then face a decision when like Herta could easily have the strongest possible hands in his range, like not 9-6 but sets. He would sometimes play like this. 7 of diamonds looks sweet, but on 4-way pot the full houses are pretty common. We have 9 outs to the flush and 6 additional to the straights. 15, so 30% equity-ish. So if all of those were our outs, we could call, but if we only had like 10 out of the 15, which is a bit closer, I think I'm going to shove this 20. I think I'm just going to fold. Yeah, I'll shove because the short stack guys usually 3-bet too wide, and pocket pairs are pretty good hands to 4-bet when you assume that you have folding equity, and 40 big blinds deep against the 8 big blind 3-bet, we usually do have some folding equity against his range, and now he had 2 overs and we were flipping, so not the worst scenarios. I'm isolating this limper. We face a min 3-bet, so, and he has only 50 cents behind, so if this guy, I'm actually going to take a stop and go move. I don't know if he's ever going to fold both flop, but if he does, it's pretty sweet. Yeah, we hit nothing, so I'm just going to shove. Just making sure that he actually has 53 cents and not $53. That happens sometimes. Now we are dominated. I'm not going to into a 4-bet wars, and I don't, if he 3-betted enough I could flat or 4-bet. I don't know anything about him. The only info that I had is that he has a full stack. Pretty good job speaking about how good we have done, and then suddenly losing almost all of our profit, if not all of it, so good job. Jacks seem to be a pretty good hand to see, but here this guy should never have queens plus and never have deuces or any deuce X hand. Ace is actually pretty bad card for us. He could have, I don't know if he's going to flat ace king too often, but usually they don't, but ace queen is also in his range and so on. He also has like pocket 8s, pocket 8 type of hands, like 7s, 8s, 9s, you get it. It's actually again an example of flop that we just very often win on. he's going to 3-bet the very best hands. I think now I get to win against 8s. Ah, not even close. But yeah, even we beat pretty big part of his estimated range. He would need to call with most of that for us to value bet, and he would he can't ever play an ace x that way for us to bet there. So if he did, that would make our bet a horrible thing to do. And also if he check raise sometimes, that's something we don't want to face. So not too much happening. Opening pretty wide on the button as we usually do, and against the mean bet it's mostly between calling and raising. And with one card and some backdoors, I'm just going to call. And again, this is a card that we kind of have to win on. When he checks, he usually has 7 or 4 or deuce against the mean bet. Since he mean bet, so I think I'm going to get those hands to fold when I pot twice. I hate to see a raise, cause then I would not be able to realize my gut shot equity. I think potting it twice is bit better than just checking and going to show them, because I would hate to lose against the deuce, pair of twos or fours, when those are the type of hands that I think I can get to fold. And sevens are pretty rare, and the river usually brings an overcard against fours and deuces. Against the 5x I'm folding. Plus we actually had gutshot equity, so if he for some reason had a good hand, we would still have outs. But most often I would have just potted it twice. On a river king I would have either checked or bet smallish, like half pot. His flatting range actually hits this pretty well. He shouldn't have like 2 pair plus, but he could have straight. So I'm just going to give up. On ace queen 9 or something I would have bet 3 times, I think, because these straights are not possible. Again, a hand where well, he's a recreational player, so he might not 3-bet enough. So I'm just going to check it down. Against the regular you can pretty safely say that they won't ever have certain hands in those spots, but against recreationals you all usually can't, so I play a bit differently against recreational or assumed recreational players than against assumed regulars. This is a flop where I'm going to call a c-bet. He might not continuation bet with all of his ace x hands. So my king x hand is pretty often the best hand here. I'm just hoping that he didn't river the jack, or that he doesn't have like ace 10 plus. Ace 10 plus, I think he will continuation bet for value pretty often. Against a nickname I can't pronounce, XGZ. I could 3-barrel, yeah. Ace queen 4. Well, I don't know. It's funny because against regulars, I don't remember the spot exactly, but usually regulars don't have flatting ranges. Small blind versus big blind. Small blind versus button. And if they usually just flat if the big blind is extremely bad or something. So that's a scenario that doesn't happen too often. And if they have flatting ranges, they are usually like queen jack and queen jack type of hands. So actually, I usually just don't barrel too often in those spots against regulars either. This is a spot where I cannot flat because there's a limper that I assume is going to call very often, and my high hand plays fairly well multi-way, and it flops pretty well as well, as you can see. I'm not going to bet myself though, because we don't get any value with this hand and we just kind of want to draw cheaply. I'm just going to check call. And we river 2 pair. I think he's going to have like bluffs a lot. And this sizing looks like some weird ace-x hand or some weird 10x hand. It's pretty clear that he doesn't know the real rules of this game too well. I'm going to raise for value. He folded. And there the flop decision was actually pretty close, but I thought that betting would be a bit better. It actually might not be. Checking this turn, and we get the value bet the river if he checks. And against the bet, I'm just calling myself. Pretty wild flat pre-flop by this guy, but yeah, he has a shorter stack, so not surprised. Thanks for your question. It's always nicer to have a type of dialogues compared to monologues. Against the regular, I'm not going to 3-bet ace king from these positions, since I don't know what he does against them. If he called too much, then I would have. I'm just calling the flop c-bet. And calling down most often against small sizings. This looks like ace king or ace jack 2. We beat actually. This is never ace queen, I would assume. I think this could be an inducer by ace king. I think his most likely hand is ace king or maybe ace jack, I don't know, but I think I can make a small raise here. It needs to be like small enough so for ace. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I should raise here. Yeah, what the heck. Wow. Also like ace jack or queen 8. So there's a regular. Let's type it out. PSB UTG open. Queen F offsuit. Half pot. Half pot on the turn. Min bet call. That's a line. So he got his, yeah, we're getting get it in with queens here. Again, pretty much cooler. With reverse hands, the hand would actually play pretty much the same. I would not have opened the pots but I would have gotten in for 40 big blinds. So maybe this time we shouldn't mention how well we have done. Not to jinx it. I'm almost finished with my food, so you don't have to listen to that anymore. We face a min raise again. I'm not folding with a gut shot and backdoor flush draw. Just trying to get there. I think all of my flush outs are live except for the 3. So 8 clubs and 3 fives. So 11 outs, 24% equity. There needs to be 4 times these for us to call, and there pretty much is, even with no implied odds. And if I would have hit my hand, I would have checked actually. So he raised the flop with deuces, so yeah. If you are grinding these low stakes cash games, I highly recommend 888Poker as an option. On this turn I just need to check, and usually check fold. Yeah. Even though it's good card for our hand, it's pretty bad card for us against his range. One of the worst cards actually. So pretty is an understatement. So what do you guys think about my ad that I finished in 5 minutes before the coaching? I think I was at my apartment like 5 minutes to 9, and I had 5 minutes to finish my ad. I think it's pretty sweet. It's well in line with my wild background. I'm not going to raise with my pocket jacks. I would not have without the min raise, and I'm not going to now either. He did in 4-bet, so usually not queens plus. This guy could also he could have bigger pairs. He could be overplaying other hands too. 10 is actually not a very good card for us, especially 10 of clubs, and if he bets half pot, I don't like this pot. I think he actually has a overpair or full house or flush. We don't beat too many hands. Seems weak, but the line we took seems weak. This is a pretty close one. I think flatting is fine. This guy opened for 4x and then pots the flop. I'm going to call once. Now I'm betting in here. They both seem not too strong. And we have a gut shot. I'm checking. The 9 is actually a pretty bad card for us. And against the big bet again, I'm just folding. We face a pot-sized donk bet. Yeah, I think I'm just folding. We could easily have the best hand, but he usually has outs, and when he bets the pot, he's also usually going to bet on the turn, and I don't like that. I'm betting my, well, queen is bad. I think I can start with checking, and the turn is actually one of the 2 cards that I don't bet. The river I do bet. Sweet. Funny how he didn't 3-bet pre-flop, and how now he makes a check raise. So he's repping only queen 10, which is 16 combinations. I don't know if he plays. He could also have like king jack also, but I blocked them, so there's 4 of them. Maybe ace jack. I don't know why these guys wouldn't 3-bet ace jack. He also has flush draws. I think I'm just going to call and hoping to not to see a heart. King would be actually pretty good card for us. Now he checks. I'm thinking he has some ace-x hands also. I think I need to bet. He shouldn't check the straight here. Or if he had 2 pair, I don't think he would check. Let's just not get shoved on, and everything is fine. Mean race, we are beat. 4 outs, 10%. This like, I think I need to call here because he might not always have a better hand, and he might sometimes check the river. I just really don't like this situation. I need to type a note about him. Yeah. I don't like this too much. That's weird. I think betting the turn is definitely fine. Well, maybe we could have checked the turn. I mean, he's repping straights and better 2 pairs. And if he ever check raises, we don't get value out of worse hands either. So, well, we get money from the flush draws, but I think we would have. I think checking turn would actually be better. I usually don't face those spots because it makes just absolutely no sense. So I'm not completely sure, but I think checking is fine option as well. Maybe even better. I'm 3-betting here. We face a mean check raise with open and they're not going to raise here, just trying to turn a straight, which I do. Let's see if this guy is check raising the turn also. Open raising fours. Pretty good card for us actually, because he might have Jack X hands. If he has, he's going to raise. Most often he's just going to have King X hands, and King 6 is not too common of a hand. I think I need to bet fairly small to get a call from his weak range. And if he has a straight, I assume that he's like, if he has a jack, he's gonna raise us. Pocket eights. Okay, that's a I don't know if I think our sizing is fine. That's a pretty fun line to take with set also. So flat it, eights, mean check raise, called. Yeah. So 25 minutes to go, and that means that if you have any questions, this is usually pretty good time for asking them. Uh, Danita was actually at my table and Unibet free roll a few days ago. I'm not quite sure which day the free roll was, but I remember that Danita was at my table. I think. Let's think about c-betting here. Yep, let's not. Well, yeah. I'm going to check call. He overbets the turn. Well, we have. It looks like he might have a either set or some kind of draw. We have pretty good equity against that range. We make it. It's a bit unfortunate that we actually do have fairly big number of ace-x hands in our range. So the 4 of spades was not the best of the spades, but he actually just had kings. Didn't 3-bet, bet way too big on the turn and a bit too small on the flop. In my opinion, at least. I was trying to check it down, then I ended up making a full house, so I need to raise more against the mean bet. Against bigger sizings like almost pot size bet, I would have just called. I think I'm 3-betting. Jack 10 suited is decent hand to open when there's a recreational player in big blind. And on this texture I'm just going to give up. Give up on. I could have 3-betted also, but against a shorter stack I think flatting is fine. I'm actually trying to bluff on this flop. We have 1 over, backdoor, flush draw and goodish flop to check raise on. The turn. I think I'm just going to give up and checking this. The turn is not too scary for like Jack X hand. That is the biggest part of his range is biggest individual part of his range is Jack X after he calls a check raise. This is a pretty good example of the hand that we should win. Yeah. I'm just going to call this. Well, he check raises, so he has something. We have pretty good equity to call. We have 4 outs usually, sometimes just 3, but usually 4, so 16%, so we get good enough odds almost with no implied odds. And against 2 checks I just bet fairly big myself. And I'm calling the main bet. And if a non-spade hits and he mean bets, I don't know if he does this more often with ace-x hands or flush draws. So I'm thinking about between shoving. I don't need to shove. I can just raise like, I could raise like $1 to get him to fold the flush draws unless he paired a jack. Then I don't know. I think I'm just folding. He's gonna have too many of ace-x hands since he clearly has no idea what to do. Folding from these positions. 15 minutes to go. It's a shame. I would have called maybe because we have a position. We are a bit more than 100 deep, and this guy is pretty likely to call as well if we call. Let's just see what happens. A shame. Ace Jack actually played it fairly well, to be honest. Assuming the big blind guy has any kind of bluffing range. Which they actually often don't have at these stakes. But I don't hate it. I'm checking. I'm pretty much giving up with nines. Actually, when I'm just giving up, I might have. I could just sieve it and three barrel. So that was at least a potential mistake. Two overs, backdoor, everything. I'm c-betting. Here I'm raising limper with ace-8. Pretty good hand. Small c-bet on this flop. Double suited 4. I'm gonna bet either this or river, and I think it needs to be this with all the flush draws. Bit too big of a bet, fast bet here. I'll call her. Yeah. This guy doesn't have a full stack, so I would have flatted this. Mean 3-bet. Always a sign of good customer. Not too much for us though on the flop, so just giving up. So has any of you watching played the snap poker? How have you done? What do you think about these games? Do you have any like opinions or? This guy went into the tank at table number 2, so we are just waiting for a while. We flop a gut shot. This is actually a flop that I would check fold a pretty big part of my range because it's pretty good for this guy. I tried 3-bet bluffing here, but we face a pot-sized 4-bet, which is rarely a bluff. I think I'm going to 3-bet this as well. You could defend also. I like to 3-bet sometimes with... I'm not folding 10s here. This shove is rarely a bigger bear as it is now. That's fine. Both funny and fine. And the board actually develops pretty well for us to bluff here. Yeah, right. Type down a note about the 60 big blind 3-bet shove by queens. So next time we know not to call too lightly. With 10s, I think I still would call. Because how can you not? It's actually a spot where mean 3-bet again. I think I'm just going to fold a pair. He mean 3-betted 3 and it's not too strong of a pair. I think we can 3-bet. Actually going slightly smaller. When he only has 40 bigs. Tens is a flat call for me from these positions. Check. Check. Check, checkity check. Eight's flatting again. And I would actually be happy to check it down again, but I'm going to call a c-bet on this flop. Yep. Half a pot c-bet. Turn is actually a card that I would call again, because I think that he would c-bet most of his one diamond hands with no pair, no like any ace 8 with, or like I don't know, queen jack, queen 10, and the river is a fold. I think flatting is fine. This guy clearly has no clue, and there's a blue labeled guy on big blind, so I don't mind playing multi-way. I think I'm going to check raise here. And then bet by myself against the check. Sweet. Let's hope for 10-9. That would actually make a ton of sense. Yay! And queen 10 is impossible, so sometimes he's bluffing though. But the times he's not, we get a 100 big blind profit. King 10 is a hand that he definitely should have c-betted the flop on. He had king high and double gutter, so I just don't get it why he wouldn't c-bet. So few more minutes to go. We have been on the better side of some coolers. Set over set it the guy, where the villain actually didn't play the hand too well. And then we faced aces with our ace king and tens, queens with our tens, in the spot where tens cannot be folded. So there's been quite a lot of different type of callers to both sides actually. And 3-betting with ace king suited, or squeezing. And 13 big blinds is the sizing I usually use when I'm 100 deep. Let's sit out next big blinds. And if you have any last minute questions, feel free to ask, or any comments or poems or jokes. Or this actually not too nice of a spot. We are out of position against the 3-better, but this guy is going to call often enough for us to call, I think, and not 4-betting too often from these positions. So I think the flat is absolutely fine. Let's see what happens in this hand, because this is a very weird line to take. Like, he's obviously not a too strong of a player. And then he checks the turn. Wow. With a flush, an ace jack. I mean, yeah. So there's 90 minutes of 6 max cash games, and next week's session might have been on, I don't remember which day it is actually, but it's going to be in Finnish. Yeah. Thanks for railing, and see you next time. Bye.